Welcome to Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. Now, we are weeks away from Municipal Election Day on October 20th here in the province of Alberta. And that means across this great province, candidates are stepping forward with visions for stronger communities, smarter growth, and more responsive local governments. Today, we continue our coverage for this important election with a conversation for our Medicine Hat voters and residents. Joining us for today's episode is Troy Wason, council candidate for the city of Medicine Hat. So let's jump into that interview right now. Troy, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself and talking about your run to be one of the next city councilors for the great city of Medicine Hat, Alberta. Got to start with a very simplistic but overarching question, if you don't mind. And it's one that I love to ask to start off all my interviews because it really gets me to know who I'm talking to. Where does your sense of duty to serve your community come from, Troy?
Actually, Chris, that's a great question. When we moved to Alberta, 1969, so I guess 56 years ago, my mother came to Alberta with basically me under one arm and a diaper bag under the other. And, I was brought up by a single mother most of my life, through different things. And Alberta has been really quite good. It was really good to both my mother and myself. And, both my parents did make it through high school. And I've just had every opportunity that you can imagine living here. And I've always felt that was a part of who I've been. And so it's whether I'm volunteering in any of the forms that I have been throughout my life. And, I'd been asked in the past whether or not I'd like to run again or run one day. And I said, one day that'll happen. And, as I now approach my 60th birthday, I thought, this is a time where I think I've got something to offer my city. And my wife and I chose to move here about 5 years ago at the beginning of COVID, and we love it here. We think it's a great place to live, and the folks that I do know here they spoke very highly of the city, and so now that I've been here and I've really got involved in it, I thought this is the time.
Now, many people probably know you in many different in your past careers, and they probably wouldn't think that you would ever start your own political career at the municipal level. They might know you from the Alberta legislature, they might know you from party politics, but you've decided that your first entry into elected politics, as the name on the ballot, would be at that municipal level. What was that decision based on? Because your background gives you the ample opportunity to go provincial or even federal, but you yourself decided, or you and your wife decided that municipal was where it was going to be. What was that decision based on?
Oh, another great question. It's funny. I spent 40 years defending party, defending leader, and it was always something I was very proud to do. It was something I was, being part of the system. I knew how it was. I knew how it was played, and I didn't always agree with where the direction of the party was going or the direction of the leader, but I was part of the team. And in this case, running civically, running municipally, I get the opportunity to make decisions that are based on my intelligence, my research, my interaction with the community, and it's mine. You know what I mean, Chris? It's my decision. Whatever I vote on, how I conduct myself, I don't have to defend someone else. This is me doing this. And, the voter, should I be fortunate to be elected, will then have 4 years to judge me on that. And I think it's almost liberating in a way for me, because I had been so confined for, since 1984, really just confined within the party system. And now deciding to make this just feels really like the right thing to do. And I like going home at night too.
Is it unique? I don't want to say unique, but is it surreal say you've put your name on the ballot to be that candidate? Because you have, looking at your past, you have helped a lot of campaigns across this province, provincially, provincial, province wide. You've helped local candidates, but this is the first time you're going to be putting yourself on the ballot. So are you going to listen to yourself as much as you've listened your candidates when you were running them listen to you, or how do you expect to run this campaign? Because in your own words, you're a relatively newcomer to Medicine Hat. 5 years ago, you moved there. Are you ready to dig deep into the issues that Medicine Hat voters are going to be talking about? And are you willing to listen to yourself to say, I need to be the candidate, not the campaign manager?
I've ran for positions in organizations, and one of the biggest ones, I ran for vice president of a political party, and I remember that exact question was asked to me. Like, are you ready to step back? And at this, I mean, this is not going to be a full-blown provincial or a full-blown federal campaign, not even a leadership. This is fairly local. So there will be parts of it I'm going to be definitely more hands-on than I would otherwise if I were running in another position. However, I do know that I have my wife and I have friends that will be quite honestly, they'll be the first ones to say, Troy, step away, take it easy. You don't. This is not you this time. And I mean, that's a humbling experience in itself after you've been campaign manager, you've done these things. But it also, I know when I was campaign manager that I had to build that trust with my candidate that I was doing it in their best interest. So I have to step back and let those around me do that mentoring to me, which, as you say, I'm new at this, and yet on the other hand, I do know what it's like to be on their side. So it'll be finding that balance.
Again, going back to the relatively newcomer, have you built the trust for the people of Medicine Hat? Because I remember when I ran for municipal politics up in Big Lakes County, which is northern Alberta, and I was 5 years into living in the community. People still looked at me as an outsider. Oh, you don't know the issues. You're relatively new, so maybe you should wait a few more years. 5 years in, do you think you know the issues that people are faced in Medicine Hat right now?
Wow, you're asking some great questions. When we were moving here, I'd asked a former politician in the area about the sort of the good, the bad, the indifferent of what it's like to live in the community, and he was quite forthright with me, and he said, Troy, when you come here, you will be asked the question, do you want to be left alone? And if you do, this community will allow you to be anonymous. If you want to volunteer, you want to be a part of the community, and you put your hand up, they're very, very welcoming. And I've even the last couple of years, I've even had to say to folks who said, "Oh, would you like to be on this?" And I'm gonna have to say, you know what, I have a time restriction. I have certain things that I want to do right now, but don't count me out down the future. Just I'm not there right now, and but I was also told that there is folks that have been here for generations, and they're not going to just let you in. And I thought, you know what, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, having been a Calgarian for most of my life, I had, I always felt like a very small fish in a very large pond. And here I feel like a small fish in a small pond, and I feel very comfortable in that. Do I know the issues? I don't think I know all of them, of course, and this is why I'm hesitant to say, what's my platform, or what are my issues, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know what, I don't have any issues particularly. I mean, I'm grateful for being welcomed in the community. I'm sitting on a number of boards, and I feel like I'm part of the community. So since I announced on June 6th, I've just been really just spending a lot of time in the coffee shops, having conversations, meeting with actual other candidates. I mean, this is running for councillor, there's not a competition. I mean, so far we've got, out of the 8 positions, we have 8 candidates. So to sit down and meet with them is really quite refreshing to say, so what where are you on this, and such things like that. Then talking to people in the community, just having coffees. I've really, I think, just it's given me that I don't know everything, and I don't know what's going on there, and to sit there and say, what is going to be the next issue come October? Well, there's a lot of things on the table right now. I can think of about 10 that the current administration is dealing with. Some of those are going to disappear. Some will just, continue on. I'm going to be a part of that, and to get myself up to speed, to understand the issues. Yeah, learning curve like this, and I appreciate that. I mean, again, this isn't the first time that I've been into this type of situation. I've worked in administration. I have, I've been in Ottawa. I've been in Edmonton. City Hall, yeah, this is a new one for me, Chris, and I'm excited about it. But I really don't know if I know. I don't know all the issues. Let's be honest, I don't. But I'm learning.
And you're being honest there, because I say this respectfully to any person who's running for office right now. Anyone who says that they know everything that's going on in their community is, I've got oceanfront property in Pincher Creek to sell you then, because you don't, because everyone in your community has their own unique challenges and their own unique issues that are going on in their lives. Some are provincial, some are federal, some are even municipal. But the role of the counselor is to try to address as many as possible with the limited supply of money that you have. How do you envision yourself being an advocate for everyone, knowing that you're not going to be able to help everyone all the time? Because that is the biggest challenge I think a lot of municipal counselors have to overcome, is they think they can help everyone, but you really can't, because some things are just outside the jurisdictional role that the municipality plays. So in your life, in your past, and even as you enter in this new era that you're entering, how do you envision yourself being able to help people with the realities that we live in?
Chris, I have counseled a number of folks, obviously running for office in the past, and your assessment is there's two types of candidates. There's the candidates that want to fix one thing and one thing only. That's their issue. That's the one thing that they want to do. And in some ways, I don't think they envision what comes after that the next day. And it could take 4 years to get that, but that's their myopic view on how they're going to do it. There are those candidates that want to solve everything. And whether you're going to Ottawa, whether you're going to Edmonton, or whether you're going to City Hall in Medicine Hat, all of them, you need to work. You are one person in a very, very large organization. And I mean, as counselors, your goal is to set the parameters for the administration. These are things you come in, this may be your issue, and the other 8 folks on the board, on the council, will look at you like, yeah, it's not our priority. And you have to be able to find those 4 other individuals or more to bring that to the table. And I think that's where a lot of folks, they lose their focus is, well, what do you mean you don't want to talk about it on day one? Well, that's not how it works. And I think that's where my, 4 decades of being in this weird type of world, and I really appreciate, Chris, what you do, because you understand that there are people across this province, across this nation, and I love how you travel across the country and you meet the different municipality folks that represent the municipalities, and you understand that for every municipality in Alberta and every municipality in Canada, they have their own problems, they have their own issues, they have their own ways of dealing with it. Some have do really well for 4 years, and others, they just have issues. And so in my world, I just feel that I want to come in and, figure out with my colleagues what those issues are and what we can do given the, necessarily the amount of revenue. I know what the province has, in a lot of cases, they have downloaded services, they've downloaded programs, and then cut back and say, but be more efficient with your money. Okay, well then, if you do that, there always has to be those bends. And I think that's, understanding that as a citizen, as we are, is the first problem, or first, solution to this problem. But in the whole scheme of things, if you have at least that in your mind that that's where you're at, I think then you can be more effective.
You talk about you mentioned it, and it's an area that I want to play in, if you don't mind, for a few seconds, because it's important for the context of the interview. Because when you're elected, you don't get to decide who else gets elected at that on election day on October 20th. So that means you are going to have to potentially work with 7 other people plus a mayor who are going
Yeah.
to either agree with you wholeheartedly, disagree with you wholeheartedly. And that means if you're going to get something passed, or if you're going to move something forward, you need a majority of people around that council. Do you work well with others who disagree with you on a regular basis, or who may be opposed to what you believe in, but for the betterment of the community, you need to get things done? So are you able to work with across party lines, if you will? And I know for those who are about to send emails to me, please don't. I understand. Only 2 municipalities in the province of Alberta have political parties after October 20th. All other 432 do not. So, as of right now, can you work across quote unquote party lines to get things done? Because at the end of the day, people aren't voting for a liberal or a conservative, but there may be a liberal or a conservative on the party, on the at council, and you're going to have to work with that person. Can you do it?
I like to think I can. I mean, I do. If we go back to the partisan politics, I have friends in every political party, from the right to the left to the extremes on both the right and the left, and I have worked within the confines of that for 40 years. And one of the things that has been joyous to me has been that since I've announced, I've had endorsements from folks from the right, the left, and they know how I have worked with people throughout the past. Being within a political party, I mean, if you don't know how to work with people, you're not going to last long in a political party. It is, I mean, the fact that I have had that longevity of, I mean, politics has been my passion. I'm a researcher. I'm an historian by academic training, but politics since my second year of university and has always been a part of it. My friends, my wife, everybody has come from that world. And so if I wasn't able to work within the confines of, different philosophical beliefs, different political beliefs, I wouldn't have lasted that long. And that's been kind of, I feel like sometimes I'm playing survivor. And so far, nobody's actually voted me off the island. And I hope to keep that, again, in City Hall, there will be times where people are going to say, geez, you sound pretty progressive. Or there are going to be times they're going to say, you sound pretty conservative. And I'm going to go, you know what? In my research world, there's not right answers. There are better answers, and there are answers that, the evidence gives me this. Would I have done that 10 years ago? Would I have done that 5 years ago? No. But this time, this is how it fits into my how I interact. So if I sit down, I go into a meeting and my idea is this is how I'm going to vote. And there's 2 or 3 people in the room that say, Troy, have you thought about it this way? There are chances I may change my mind. And I'm not, I would say one of my least strong traits would be I'm not dogmatic. I want to make the best solution for that particular time. Am I in favor of, bike lane? Well, maybe in some places I am, but going down the middle of Deerfoot Trail in, Calgary would not be a place I would put it.
So I
So
was about
there
to say, I think
again,
you just lost every single Calgarian vote that you are. Let's listen
yeah,
to this for
absolutely. And you
sure.
know what? I'm not planning on there. But you know what I mean, Chris? These are things that just to say this is how I'm going to be on every vote, or this is how I'm going to be on every issue. I think is crazy talk, because that's not the way I have worked with people. And I think that's, having lived in Calgary all my life, I did. I mean, I used to watch Horse Trading 101, and let's call it what it was. I mean, there were times when the mayor would say, this is where we want to go. And I've watched some people flip pretty easily or hard, whatever. But, in my case, like, I want to know what is the best decision. And if administration comes to us and says, this is what we think it is, and this fits within your parameters of what you set for us, then you got to think pretty hard on it. So to answer your question, yes, I think I can work with folks across any philosophical lines. I mean, but there are times where, it may not be an issue I'm going to feel very hard and strong about because it just, people I've talked to said, really, are we talking about this? Or there's ones where this is where we're going and I may not agree with it and I will vote accordingly.
Okay, so I, I appreciate that answer because it opens up another line of question that I need to ask. Because the role of a counselor, the role of someone who gets elected, is to represent the people who have elected them, those who voted for you, and those who did not vote for you, because you're there to
Correct.
represent everyone. But the issue is, I have my own internal moral compass that I believe what is right and what is wrong. I'm assuming you do too. After 40 years in politics, I'm assuming you have one.
Yes.
But the issue is, if you're on the council table, that means that
Yeah.
moral compass has to sometimes be squashed. That moral compass can't be the guiding light, the guiding principle. It has to be what you hear from the residents. It has to be what you hear from people on the street, the people you engage with. In your role as counselor, if you are elected on October 20th, do you see you being able to balance what you believe is right and what you hear from residents is right? Or who wins that internal struggle? Is it always going to be Troy, or is it always going to be the resident?
Wow. That's difficult because again, it would, in most cases, it would depend on the particular issue. I don't think I've got a moral compass, obviously, but I
If you
have
don't, then I feel
certainly
like you're in the wrong business.
precisely. And I mean, that's been my intention as I've been involved in the political realm is I've always kind of known where I'm going with this. And I mean, I've had some pretty epic battles within my political party days. And now I get to have those among myself. I'm not sure I know the answer to that question straight out because, given the situation, I mean, it's hard to say when you've got 65,000 people to say, who are you speaking for? Is it the 38,000 or is it the 37,000 or 27,000, 28,000, whatever it is? Who am I speaking for? And that's difficult. I've listened to people say, my counselor was elected to represent me, or my MLA or my MP was elected to represent me. Yes, they were. But your neighbor is just as important as you are, and they disagree with you. So am I supposed to be with this person or with you? And so it's always going to be difficult. And you are going to make, particularly in a small community. I mean, I think in a place like Calgary, you could, there's 1.5 million people. You represent a ward of 100,000. Here at 65,000, they're your neighbors. They're the people you're going to be. And there's going to be times we're going to make decisions that they're going to feel like we're the dumbest people on the planet. And I expect that. And I always
But are
question
you
once upon a time.
can I interject there for a
Please,
second? Because
yeah,
are you willing to have those hard conversations? Because when people do call you out, we always, especially internally in municipal politics, we always silo ourselves. We surround ourselves with people who agree with us, who, oh, you're going to agree with me 100%. So I like talking to you. But as a counselor, you need to have those tough choices. You, as mayor, you need to have those tough choices, those tough conversations with people who go, you didn't vote the way I wanted you to vote. Why did you vote that way? Are you willing to have those tough conversations with people who may disagree with you or may say, why did you do this? Because I need to know why you voted against what I told you you should do.
100%. I've never been siloed in my political life ever. I am, being a vice president in a political party makes you everything that's wrong with the world or right with the world, depending on who you're talking to. I've been in two political parties. I've been the executive director of two political parties, which then, even the folks that used to be my colleagues in that other party, would come back and say, well, you're not one of us anymore. Okay, well, I'm not because I'm not in the same political party. In these particular, at the municipal level, there are going to be people are going to say that doesn't fit what we conceived of you. Well, in this particular issue and what I know and the information I have, this is what I believe today. And I will explain my way through that. And I will say, you're not wrong and I'm not wrong. It's just this is where we're at right now. Or I'm going to vote for something that is going to be controversial. And I expect that. And it's unfortunate in this community because we're part-time, so we're not going to be sitting in our office during the day getting those calls. But as a person that I believe, and I'm very open in the community. I mean, people know me when I walk, into, like, I'm the president of a club. I'm a historical society. I'm doing things in other capacities, and I have no problem sitting there saying, this is who I am and this is what I believe. So when you say to come down and, somebody says, you're wrong. Okay. Tell me why I'm wrong and allow me to have the same ability to do so. But anyone that's ever known me knows I've never backed down. I have no problem saying I'm wrong and I will do better, but I will never sit there and go, okay, my phone number is off the hook. It's not happening. Sorry, that was really showed my age, didn't it? The phone is
No,
off the hook.
hey, you picked up the phone like this. I knew you were an old guy when you picked up the phone like this. For those who are listening to this and not watching this on TV or
Yeah,
on
exactly.
YouTube, you picked it up like an old 1950s style phone with a
Oh,
landline.
come on, 60s or 70s at least.
Oh, sorry, I apologize because that
No
would be like
worries.
this, right? Hi, we got a doctor here. I want to turn to some of the issues, if you don't mind, for a
Yes,
few, because I
sure.
just looked at the time and we're about 25 minutes in, and I want to get to some of the issues and get your opinion on where you see the city going and where you see yourself fitting into helping address some of the issues that the city is going in. Now, I want to start with a very big one because it is August, and about 2 months ago or 3 months ago, everyone in the province of Alberta probably got sent the exact same letter from every single one of their municipalities that they live in, and that is property taxes. So let's talk about affordability for a few minutes. Now, you pay property taxes, I'm assuming, and if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
then you're a renter, and then you don't pay property taxes, but you do pay into the big role that the municipality plays in your life.
Yes.
Going to ask a very pointed question, and I apologize if it comes off political, but you are in a political show and you're running for a political office. Do you think the
Take it
city
away.
of do you think the city of Medicine Hat spends the dollars that it gets for property taxes wisely?
Oh, this is a long time question that I dealt with in the past provincially, but now that I'm coming back here, do they? Of course not. Of course they don't, and they never will. It will never be perfect. If they spend it here, and somebody doesn't like this issue, it's wrong. If they spend it here and they don't like this issue, it's wrong. But when it's being spent in what you're passionate about, then it becomes right. Is there waste? Of course. Everything has waste. I mean, I waste, I do things in my house. I forget to turn off the lights. I leave the sprinkler running. I forgot 24 hours of leaving the gas on in my barbecue. Oop, that's waste. Yes, do we spend it wisely? No, of course we don't, but we got to do better. We got to try
How?
to do better. I think that's always the effort to do so. I'm not going to nitpick. When I worked in Edmonton, and we did zero-based budgeting, and I remember there was one issue that we cut $900,000. It was a line item. It just went away, and it affected 9 people in our province. Sorry, 9 people. If anyone's watching, it's 9, and it hurt those 9 people, and that. The rest of the province, the other 4.5 million people, probably didn't even know it happened, but those 9 people were affected. Is it waste? Well, if it's not your thing, probably was considered waste, but it wasn't to those 9 people. So to say something is wrong, I mean, we watch, the best one I always hear is, oh, there's people out there working on, at -30, and there's 9 of them around a hole, and they're doing their things. They have a job. They're there, obviously, they're supposed to do things. It looks weird from our standpoint, but I had it happen to me this winter where a pipe burst in front of our house, and all I could do was look out my little keyhole, Nest doorbell thing and watch those poor buggers are freezing their butts off. And to me, it's like, So if there are 9 of them around there, I hope they're going into their vehicles, getting warm and coming back out, because there are safety issues. There are things that I know nothing about, but I know that I'm looking out. I'm thinking, geez, all I want to do is go get a big urn of Timmy's coffee so that I can warm them up. It's it's one of those questions. I don't think there's ever an answer, Chris. I always think that it's one of those things that we never are going to be perfect, but gosh, we should definitely try to achieve that. And I mean, there's never enough money. I remember working on leadership in 2011 where the question came, what would you cut? What programs would you cut? What would you cut? Schools? Would you cut this and this and this? Or do we just keep spending and still runs out? That's why we're here. We're to make those decisions. And if there is something we can, demonstrably see that it is happening, let's work on getting it better. But I just think this idea that we're going to be perfect, nobody's going to be perfect. We've got to make those decisions. And so, yes, there's waste.
Do you hear from residents when you're door knocking, when you're talking to people who are supporting you, that affordability is one of their issues that they want addressed over the next 4 years? Because in Alberta right now, and this is a generalized statement, so I apologize. I'm not picking on Medicine Hat at all. I'm just generalizing for the cross. Affordability has been a constant conversation topic for a lot of people. And the municipality does have a role to play in addressing affordability. Yes, they are under a lot of pressures, but sometimes you have to cut some things. So, are you hearing from people that affordability is an issue, or is Medicine Hat affordable?
100% I hear it. It is, and I mean, I'm living through it. It is my family and I chose to move here based on affordability. We decided, to sell a house in Calgary, a condo in Calgary, and buy one here is night and day. The condo that we sold, it was a part of a fourplex in the Marda Loop, and we managed to come here and buy a bigger house, double garage, big yard. Utilities are cheaper, taxes are cheaper. It's relative to where you are. Knowing that we'd come here, I honestly didn't understand how much more affordable it would be. Now, I don't have the amenities in Calgary. I don't have the things that I grew up for 54 years of being part of. Or 50 years of being part of. There are things you give up. There are things that are important when you're younger, but living here in my 60s, this is a beautiful community. This is a place where you can, be across town in 15 minutes. I couldn't get out of Marda Loop in 15 minutes most of the time. There are trade-offs to that. But to say, is it affordable here? For the people that are here, maybe it's not. And there are things that, there's a lot of nickel diming and things in our lives where we go, okay, we go out and, we go to do something, and all of a sudden, well, there's another $20 or there's another $50. And then you start looking at your the money you have in your pocket and go, you're getting close to the end of the month, and you don't have much left. Yes, it is an issue. And can we do better? Yes, there is, utilities, there are taxes, there are things, and everybody wants their piece of the pie. And yet, no, if you're not making more, you're not getting those types of raises. I know that our property taxes are going up. I know my insurance is going up. I know these things are, my car insurance is going up. It's hard. It's really hard. And I think that's the challenge of any council coming in October or currently sitting is, how do we make it affordable? How do we get to the point where we have enough people living in the city that will keep it, I'll leave that because you have other questions, I'm sure, and you're going to touch on these. But yes, it is. I'm hearing it every day.
One of the other issues that I'm hearing a lot, and I was just recently down in Medicine Hat, and I had a conversation and I'm going to say that, no, I'm not going to say the name of the coffee chain because they don't sponsor the show. And if they don't sponsor the show, I'm not giving them free publicity. The guests can give free publicity to the coffee shop that they want to, but I'm not. So I was in the coffee shop and I was having a conversation with two young ladies. They're probably about 40, 50s. And I say young, and they probably were just dropping their kids off at school or doing something else. I'm not 100% sure, but they were having conversation. And the one conversation that we had, and it stuck in me, and this was probably about a month ago when I was last there, was around safety. They don't feel safe as they used to anymore in Medicine Hat. Now, I'm not sure if this is just something new, but from the sense that I got when I had the conversation with these two ladies was that it has changed a lot over the last 5 years, and people are feeling less and less safe, and people are locking their doors more often when they're out, like when they're not in their house. 20 years ago, they were able to just leave the doors unlocked and people would be okay. Kids would play on the streets, but it's not happening anymore. Do you see a safe community in Medicine Hat, or are these women that I talk to right in their observations that Medicine Hat has become a less safe city?
They're absolutely right, but not in a. I don't think in a hysterical way. I think it's in a. I've heard this a lot from people saying to me, you know, Troy, this it's not like it used to be, and it's not. 5 years ago, there was a lot less um, observable homelessness. There was a lot less, things happening in the downtown core. But I don't want to minimize it, but it is, if you feel less safe, it's less safe. I mean, because you know how this works, Chris, is if you don't feel safe in the downtown, you don't go downtown. And if you don't go downtown, then there's nobody there. It's kind of a, catch 22 is that you're making it, it's almost being less safe because nobody's there. And what do we know? Like we have a thing called midnight madness in the winter when they light up the tree and stuff, and everybody's downtown and the stores are open. And I could say, you feel pretty darn safe then. Why do you feel safe? Because there's others there. And as soon as, and that any city that empties out at night feels less safe. I grew up downtown Calgary. And I mean, to this day, I still kind of laugh. It's like, yes, downtown Calgary is not necessarily the nicest place in the world in some places, but I've never felt unsafe there as far as, that there's going to be a drive-by shooting or there's going to be something like that. But if you feel unsafe, that is to you the reason why you're not going to participate. I would never minimize that. What we need to do is get people back downtown where they do feel safe, because the more that are down there, if they're living down there. I mean, I grew up as a kid in downtown Calgary and watched people, they started tearing down the houses that were downtown and moving people to the suburbs, and that's great. And then they go, well, why is downtown feel unsafe? Because you don't live down there anymore. And I mean, and it's not part of a progressive program or whatever. It's like you have to have people living there. And it's, if I can walk downtown and see 25 people sitting on a patio at 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to, stop in. I'm going to maybe have a beer. I'm going to do whatever. But if everything's closed up at 5 o'clock, then there's a vacuum to be filled. And then
So
people just
how do
go
we
where
bring
they
people
go.
down? How do we bring people downtown then? Because in the next council, you'll have to probably address this, or if you haven't already been thinking about it, you better start thinking about it because
Chris, I've been thinking about this for a long time because I love downtown in any city. I mean, I'm a big fan of most cities, and I know Edmonton, for example, has their own issues. And I mean, I recently had been there, and I literally saw a dead body on Jasper at 2:30 in the afternoon from an overdose. And I'm thinking that's no longer in the peripheries. That's no longer things that I can block out. It's there. It's real. And but I know they're looking for solutions. And one of the ones that I kind of like is there is the ability to say I mean, we have some beautiful, beautiful historical buildings in the city, as you probably saw. That's what really attracted me to Medicine Hat, being in the story myself, is that there are buildings there, the Monarch and stuff, that are really part of the history of the city. And when I see some of the buildings owned by landowners who are waiting for that speculative date of when they're going to sell it and make their fortune, but the building keeps deteriorating over time and over time. And their taxes are no different, but it's like it's a fire hazard. There's so many different things, but it's an eyesore. And I'm going to put a quote or what did you call that? I'm going to put Doug Griffith's book, 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. And I mean, Doug being a friend, but also a person I admire, has made those arguments. If your downtown looks like it's run down, it will be run down. And to me, I want to say, let's, the vibrancy. And we've got a great, Invest Medicine Hat, we've got Tourism Medicine Hat. They're working on these things. But I don't want those to be programs that are cut. I want those to be the ones that say, and it's for the whole city. It's not just, well, why are you spending money downtown? No, you're not. You're spending for the city, because I'm going to say, and I was born in Regina, and I went on the #1 highway between Regina and Calgary over 100 times in my life, and I never actually came into the city. And then when I did, it's like, this is a city I'd want to live. But from the highway, it looks like every other city that you travel through, because it's it's a major thoroughfare. You get off the highway, you give people a reason to come back downtown, or come downtown, or see the rest of the flats, or go out to Medelta or wherever. All of a sudden you go, this is a charming city. And that is what we need to do, is how do we get people back down here to be part of it? And I'm sure the two women that you talked to that day would have said, if you asked them, had gone a little bit deeper, they would say, what was it like when you were safe downtown? They would have probably given you the same answer. And I think that's the key to it, is, we don't have a theater downtown. One time that was, I don't know if you caught Luke Fedridge's movie, your cinema needs you, but it was like, this was your focus point as a community, was to go to a movie on a Saturday night, go see, Star Wars in 1977 on these big screens in a beautiful Art Deco building. And now, basically it's at the mall like everywhere else. Now I can go to a mall in anywhere.
Okay, so you probably expected this line of questioning to come up here, because it is the line of questioning that I heard at the exact same coffee shop, but this time from an older woman. Her big concern was the dysfunction that was going on at City Hall. And I say that respectfully, not knowing both sides of the story. I've done my research as much as I can, but no one will know fully what happened at City Hall. There was a report by an investigator that the province released. The province signed off on said investigation, and things have happened since. The woman that I spoke to said she wants civility back in her city. She wants City Hall to start acting like a government again. Can you do that? Can you be part of the solution that brings back civility to City Hall, Troy?
I've been asked the same question probably, just about every day that I've been running. Can you
probably a lot more in the last week and a half, eh?
Well, I was there the night the report came out, and I sat there from 6:30 to 11:30 at night, so 5 hours. And again, I'm not on this council. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what's going on. What I do hear from people, though, they say, why would you want to run and be part of this? Well, I'm not running to be part of anything like that. I mean, I am running to be part of something proactive. I'm running to be part of something that is good for the city, to make it a better city, to make it a greater city. And I don't believe in any organizational structure do you ever get to say, this is how it's going to be, or this is the way it is. I don't know. And to go back to your earlier comment, Chris, is I don't know who my colleagues would be if I'm elected. When I get in there, I am going to do my best, my utmost best, to be part of something that is good. I don't want to go in thinking this is part of what the past was. I don't think that way. I mean, I'm a person, as an historian, I respect the past, but I plan for the future. And I see so many great things that this city has been, but I'm not from here. I can't go back and say, oh, I remember the good old days, or I'm going to make it like that, be a part of making like that. I'm going to go in and say, I want to make this the best that I can be a part of. I don't, if you can find 10 people that say Troy doesn't work well with others, then I'll pull my name today if you can find those 10 people. I'm in there because I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for what can we say to our administration, to our CAO, to say, This is what we expect. This is what we want to be. And I don't have that answer today of what it's going to be because I'm just one of 9 people. But when we do sit down and we have those conversations, I want to be able to say, okay, stop talking about this, the past. That's not there. Understand that's how it was. The province made it quite clear this was not this wasn't going to be a punishment. This is what you need to do. And so do it and then move on. For gosh sakes, let's just make sure that, the next 4 years isn't that. And I'm not a kid, and I'm sitting here going, I don't want my legacy to be that. I want my legacy to be something that go, I've now retired, and boy, you remember back the days when Wason was on council? What a great time that was. That's my goal. We'll see if I can be a part of that. But who the heck wants to come back and say, well, they were dysfunctional, or they were this, or they were that? I mean, again, nobody wants that, and I'm sure this council didn't want that either. And again, I can't speak for them. I can't say, who. I don't even. That's a fool's game. What it is when people ask me, why are you doing this? I tell them why I'm doing it. And I'm sure if you go around to the other candidates, which I hope they come to you and you have those conversations, is what are they doing it for? And can they work with me? I've met with now a candidate for mayor. I met with a couple for council, and I like them. One in particular I'm a big fan of, and we're probably not philosophically aligned. That's okay. But I can find some middle ground with just about anybody. And as long as they're not coming in and saying, this is my way or the highway, well, then we're going to have, and you've seen it in other councils, those people get ostracized fairly quickly. I'm a team player. I've played soccer in my life. I've been part of politics. Hell, I started out in Cubs. It's always been about that. And I'm an introvert normally. But when I always knew I wanted to be part of something bigger, and politics was sort of my way of being there. And now being part of this community, to answer long-winded answer your question is, I don't see that it doesn't have to be that way. And there have been dysfunctional councils probably all across the province since 1905, and they figured their way out of it. And I want to be part of the council that figures its way out.
I will say this, and I've heard this over and over again, so this is not a slight on you, but I'm just saying that every person I talk to on this show secretly
Yep.
tells me that they are an introvert in the most extroverted job that there is in the province of Alberta, and that is a municipal council. I don't know what is with the sort of sadomasochist introverts that people are that run for council, but good on you, Troy. Good on you for putting your name out there. I have 2 last questions because I'm cautious of time and I know you're a busy man. And the second last question is an important one. Are you optimistic about the future of Medicine Hat if you are elected on council?
100%. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't optimistic. It's not part of my DNA. I have any organization I have belonged to, I have done my best to be you want back to your SSN comment. I've been executive director of 2 political parties that were not at the height of their, being part of a political party that's been around since 1905. I wasn't when it was the greatest thing in the world. I was a part of when it was at its lowest. I didn't step into the position because I wanted to continue with the downward spiral. I went in because I thought I could do something to make it better. And so I think this is the thing is, why can't we be better? I mean, we have great resources here, people, material resources, energy galore. We're growing some of the best greenhouse products in the country. There is so much to be optimistic about. And yet there is a history here that is second to none. The ranching community, the farming community, the business community has been, this is what I have learned over the last 5 years. These are the people, the generational families that have been here. They haven't left. They're here because this is where they grew up. This is where they're part of, and they're still here and they're still a part of it. Yes, I'm a newbie. I'm an immigrant, if you want to call it. I'm new here, but I'm really optimistic that I can be part of something even better, being greater. And it's been great, and it still is. It is, but I want to continue that tradition. And so, yeah, I mean, moving here, as I said, we chose to move here. We're happy we moved here. I don't wake up and have a day where I went, geez, I wish we'd stayed, where I was at. Calgary was great to me. I mean, fabulous place. I did my education there. I've got great friends there, but I needed something different. And my wife and I love being here. Our dogs love being here. And it's a different dynamic. It's, one city is better maybe when you're younger. Why can't we make this a city where kids can stay? They're not just going off to Calgary to go to school, or Edmonton, or, Waterloo. They want to be here. So I think that's what I want to be a part of.
So my very last question, and it's the all-important question, it's the $1,000,000 question. This is the point in time in the show where I turn over the microphone to you, and you can talk for as long as you want or as little time as you want. And it gets to the crux of the entire interview. But, Troy, why should people put their trust in you on October 20th, on Election Day, to be one of the next city councilors for the great city of Medicine Hat? So take as long as you want or as little time as you want to explain to my listeners, to the viewers, to people of Medicine Hat, that answer.
This would be so much easier if we were doing hot ones and I had the last dab in my mouth, and I was like, my face was, Chris, and, as you know, more people in this municipal world than I do, we are more than the names on the ballot. We are people, and I'm a small business person in Medicine Hat. I'm a volunteer. I'm now running for council. I am part of the community. My career has been in research and in strategic analysis, in advising individuals and companies and nonprofits, taking data and putting it into discernible answers, perhaps good or bad, hopefully mostly good. People come to me for advice, and they pay me to look things up, whether I'm doing genealogy, whether I'm doing as being a private investigator as well. I'm asked to do these things, and I think to put my name forward to say, what do I bring to the table, is I look at every issue in its entirety at that particular moment and say, what is, if I'm asked to give a solution or to give advice to what, this could be, that's what I do. That's what I've done for my career, as far as, what I enjoy doing. I love finding that nugget in that mind, and say, okay, this is it. This is what we need to do. So I am deeply, deeply committed to professionalism, integrity, ethics, and I've been doing this throughout my career. And I want to bring all of that and say, okay, I am part of this community. I'm your neighbor. I'm the person that you can walk down the street. I will have coffee with anybody, as I think very well. It's about trust. It's about trust, and we spend being in politics for 40 years and not having, I've always been like, this is all I have, Chris, is that I have my integrity. And if I lose that, it can happen just like that overnight. Yet I spent 40 years building that, and that trust with the community. And again, I challenge anyone, if they want, go do an opposition research on me. It's all open. I'll give you my accounts. You can go look, find it. Now, I will confess, maybe during my university years, I'm glad there wasn't social media, but we'll let that one go. And any of my friends that would tell stories, they're also guilty. So anyway, we'll go with that. That's been my career, Chris, and I think that's what I'm most proud of. I remember a certain journalist said to me about 8 years ago, when I resigned my position, said, Troy left with his integrity intact. And that was probably the best compliment I've ever had in my life. you know, I've never had really anyone giving me kudos for starting a job, but it was sure nice to have kudos when I left the job. And I didn't do scorched earth. I didn't, walk out, and you probably know the instance I'm talking about. I walked and I said, thank you very much for the opportunity to serve. And when I was done, I moved on to other things. And I think that's kind of what I'm asking the people of Medicine Hat is, allow me to be your servant, to be your representative, so that, over the 4 years, I can take what I learned, not only from them, but from the administration. And believe me, we have in every community, we have constituents, or we have, sorry, people that work in administration that are professionals. They do this for a living. They're the best at, energy. They're the best at municipal development. They're the best at what they do, or we wouldn't hire them, I hope. They're there doing their job. And to say, well, we don't need them. Well, okay, maybe we don't, but that's not my job. My job is to say, this is where, working with my colleagues, this is the direction that we think the city should go. And then we give it to our chief administrative officer, who then goes and does the job. We meet with that person. We expect them to report back to us, and we vote accordingly. That's what I want to be a part of, is to say, okay, let's find the solutions. I don't know what the issue is going to be next year. I don't think you do. And when they come to the table, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. Yeah, there is never going to be enough money. There's never going to be enough resources. And yet we've got to make those decisions. And I want to respect the people that work in City Hall. I want to respect the people that, pay their taxes. And then, hopefully I earn their respect for the job I'm doing. So that's really what I bring. I bring that, yes, the introvert who comes into something that wants to do better. And if I do that over the 4 years and I decide I'd like to run again, they'll be the first people to say to me, yeah, thanks, Troy. We'd like you to come back. Or, buddy, you did your thing and move on. I'm like, okay, I can accept that. But I also have to live here when I'm done. And I plan to live here when I'm done, because this is a community that I have, with my wife, decided this is where we want to retire. So I'm here for the long haul. I want to be part. I've got some, in my community, I'm working on different things as a volunteer, but this is something, as a part-time counselor, I think that I bring skills to the table.
So the one time I was a campaign manager in my previous life, the only thing that I would say is you forgot to tell people how they can reach out and get a hold of you, because I'm assuming we've chatted about a lot of stuff over the last 58 minutes, almost an hour now, that you probably want people to reach out and say, hey, how can I get involved? How can I sign up? How can I show my support for you? How can people reach out and support you? And for those, you don't need to give out the exact links, because I'll tell you right now, I have them all in the show notes. If you want to head over to the Cross Border Interviews website, head over to crossborderinterviews.ca, click on this show's title, and you will be able to peruse them. But if there's a quick way to reach out, how can they do it?
info@troywason.ca. That is the easiest and best way. I've had that, it's funny. I knew one day I would run, so I thought I would save that. I think I've had that now for a decade. One day I was going to use this. Yes, info@troywason.ca. And yeah, please. I mean, I'd love, I've been getting wonderful support in the community. Beautiful part is that, I've had relationships across the province over the last 40 years, and people have come from, like I said, all over the community, from my university days to my political days, to say, congratulations, Troy. Yeah, I mean, I respect, anyone that puts their name forward across this province. And you might even have the number. What's the estimate of number of people going to be running in this next election?
I'd say probably over about 1,500 to about 2,000, depending on it. It's always larger in the major cities, right? Like in small town Alberta, you probably will see a lot of acclamations, and that's just my own personal opinion. I think democracy is a wonderful thing, and no matter how you decide to use that democracy is up to the voters. Not up to me, it's up to the voters. So I would say about 1,500 to 2,000. I think the highest was like 2,700 at one time, but it wasn't recently. So it's a high number.
Well, I've given you how to get in touch with me, but I have to say, Chris, I appreciate everything you do to get. I mean, who would think? I mean, I'd love to know your story one day. This isn't the forum, but how you decided to get into this crazy world of municipalities. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad you're here, part of it. I'm so glad you asked me to be here. It's, I think what we do is important. I think what you're doing is important. And I think, I've been a part of, I have respect for the media that, reports on this. And this is just, I love the exercise. I mean, I think that's the thing. And maybe that we've come full circle since the top of the show is this is something that we get to do. I'm so proud to be a part of it, whether I was a campaign manager, whether I was just a, door knocker, but the fact that I came, now I get to sit here and go, wow, it's a different view of the world when you're sitting right here. People pick up the phone. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? People pick up the phone when you call. That's kind of cool. There's going to probably days they're not going to pick up the phone, but I intend throughout, the process to election day and then beyond, hopefully, is to be that person that's accessible. And as I said, the moment that you came and said, would you like to be on my show? I was like, I'm in. I mean, I think you have interviewed me before, have you not? If we're correct? No.
Never in my life have I actually interviewed you. This is the first
see, that's
time.
why I had to run, Chris, is I had to get on your show.
There you go. But I need to let you go because we're at the hour mark and we have an hour's worth of time we need to fill each week. So, Troy, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us on Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. We should just note for anyone who is watching this, if you want to be featured on this show, please reach out to us via our website, via our emails, via social media. We would love to have you on the show. This is not just to have Troy on the show. We would love to have any candidate, mayor, councillor running in the city of Medicine Hat. So reach out to us. There is a lot of municipalities that we have to cover. So if you want to be on the show, reach out to us. If we see you and you start following us, we'll probably reach out that way as well. So Troy, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sitting down and chatting today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. Now, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an upcoming episode by visiting us on your favorite podcast platforms or on YouTube at Cross Border Network. Now, a quick editorial note. If you are a candidate running in this year's municipal elections in the city of Medicine Hat, please reach out to us on our website at crossborderinterviews.ca. We would love to feature you on this show, just like we did today's guest. To learn more about the communities and the people we feature on our show, visit us online, as I said, via social media or our website at crossborderinterviews.ca. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we're back with a brand new episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 shortly. Till then, everyone.